everybody, and welcome to the next chapter over here on my channel. I am Steve, your friendly neighborhood lawn gnome, and I want to welcome you to this brand new show, the old, the new, and the awesome, with a reminder. You can shoot the shit here, but don't shoot the messenger. And I want to start off by welcoming not my guests, not my panelists, but my partners in crime who helped this little brainchild become what it is today. And I am just so glad to have them here helping me on this brand new chapter in my journey here on YouTube. And that, of course, is Kami from Kami's Corner and Stacy from Stacy's Stories. Thank you so much for helping me put this all together, the both of you. It is great to have you.
Great to be back, Steve, and Happy New Year, everybody. Yay, let's get this party started.
I love the enthusiasm, Kami, I really do. And remember, everybody, if you like what you watched tonight, please feel free to leave a thumbs up and a comment. Also, if you want to see more of these, feel free to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you will always be up to date on our latest content, because it's going to be a ton of fun over the next couple of months, let me tell you. So yeah, Kami, you started it off well. Happy New Year indeed. And I would probably say that the key word in that is new. You know, there's a lot of new things happening, lots of new beginnings. I mean, first things first, you know, you got married. So I would like to say, in the words of my ancestry and my people, Mazel Tov and Kol HaKavod, which means good luck and all honors to you.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited. Yeah, we were actually engaged since November of 2018, but there has been a series of things that just have kind of shoved it off, and I just said, you know what, enough's enough, let's just do this. It's not going to be the way we want it, it's not going to be perfect. Unfortunately, our family wasn't present, but we will be revisiting that in a year. But it actually turned out really good, despite the fact that I just went on a whim, and I think that really catapulted my new attitude for this year, which is just be intentional and don't be afraid to just, you know, kind of go off the cuff, just be a little bit spontaneous again, because it's not like I'm getting any younger. So it really worked out well. I was just really happy, and everything's good so far. It's been 2 weeks and he hasn't run away yet, so.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's definitely been an interesting couple of weeks, to put it very loosely, if I may. But yeah, I mean, I am really curious how this week is going to end. That's all that I'm going to say. Not how it's going to start, but rather how it's actually going to end, because clearly we all know what's happening in the real world outside of the YouTube world. We have a brand new president that's going to officially start taking office as of January 20th. And I don't really know what's going to happen, but what I do know is there is no reason to sit in a corner and brood, because life's too short. And, you know, look at what we're doing right now. We're talking about real world stuff, but we're going to be talking about a lot of fun stuff too.
Well, and I think that's the important part. I think that, you know, you can choose to dwell how you want. You can dwell on the negative, you can dwell on what you can't change, or you can just take each day and be positive about what you can be, you know, a part of, or what you can contribute positivity to. And I think that we are just so focused on, well, not we as in us, just as a society. I think that we've just been so focused on negativity for so long, and being, I don't know, intrusive in other people's opinions and ideas and lives and lifestyles, that we just need to be happy in our own. I mean, you know, one of the things that I just find extreme joy in is the things behind me. You know, I love collecting. I love being a collector. I love color and whimsy and Disney and, you know, all of these things. And I'm just going to focus on the things that make me happy. Not everyone is going to like me. Not everyone's going to like my choices. Not everyone is going to be happy with what I'm doing, but I could give two shits anymore. Honestly, it's not what I want to focus on. You don't like me? Move on. There's a million other people you can go follow and like.
I agree. I totally agree with that. And if there's anything negative that I could say, it's unfortunately the fact that I will not be seeing Stacy in person this year. Unfortunately, my wife and I will not be coming down to DC. But the funny thing was, pandemic or not, it was actually something that we were planning because, you know, when I officially decided that after 10 years of doing what I was doing on YouTube thus far, I knew that there was going to be a day where I was going to actually have to make a change. And the reason why was because of the fact that I wanted to take the next step, not just in YouTube, but in life. And my goal for 2021, you know, I don't want to call it a New Year's resolution because it's not. I'm not doing the New Year's resolution thing. There are goals that I have in my mind that are going to be done, resolution or not. One of them is to lose 15 pounds. And believe me, I didn't do myself a favor today because I ended up coming home with a Dairy Queen blizzard. So boo on me. The other thing is I'm hoping to eventually get into the world that is being a parent. And Stacy is one to talk because her daughter turned 18 this year. So congratulations to you.
I'm not old enough for that. I wasn't a teenage. I wasn't a teenage mom either. So I'm like, how did this happen? How, like, am I that old? Yeah, I'm that old. Ugh.
Well, I think it's, well, like I said, you definitely look younger than me, and I'm going to tell you that right now. But no, it's just like I say that to myself all the time because, you know, one of the few things that I'm very excited about when this vaccine period officially goes into full bloom and we reach this coveted herd immunity that the talking heads keep telling us about, you know, that means that I'm finally going to be able to see my family, see my friends. And the craziest thing is the fact that I am the proud uncle of 4 girls, my brother's 3 and my sister's 1. And I remember when my brother's oldest daughter was born, and this year she is going to be 8 years old.
Wow. Yeah, my nephew's going to be 7 this year, so time flies.
It's so crazy because I remember when she was born, and the craziest thing was that when she was born, my wife and I were only dating for a few months. That's one of the things that sort of makes me excited for this year because I know for a solid fact that this pandemic is officially going to end before 2021 is over. And I specifically remembered a Facebook status that you posted, Kami, and it actually made me and my wife laugh. And it was like giving up my free trial of 2021 because I don't like what I got. I thought that that was very, very clever and funny. But 2021, I seriously think there's going to be some good things ahead. I mean, there are so many things that I'm hearing right now that people in the world are planning in regards to entertainment, in regards to a bunch of other things that just people have been craving to get back.
Well, hopefully we'll get some of that back, though. I mean, there's still no end in sight in terms of when we're going to get concerts back and we're going to have movie theaters back in full swing. So all of these things I think are going to still take some time. I don't really foresee us functioning on that kind of level till the summer, late spring, early summer. And even at that, I think people are going to be a lot more cautious. I think people are going to act differently. I think it's going to take the world a little longer than we think to kind of just evolve back into everyday things. People are going to be more cautious in terms of germs, in terms of space. And we have to think about the last year. I mean, we really haven't had human contact with a great many people unless we've been fortunate enough to have a job that's allowed us to go out of the house. A lot of people are still at home. They're still working from home, learning from home. And so to just kind of get back out there and, you know, assume that we're going to be what we were when this started is a falsehood. I mean, we're going to have to learn how to communicate again. We're going to have to learn how to be next to people again, how to be courteous, how to communicate. There's a lot of bumps ahead, and it's not just going to be smooth sailing. But I do want us to be optimistic. I do want us to be hopeful because I think those are terms that have been missing from a lot of people's vocabulary for at least the better part of a year.
Well, I'll tell you a couple of things that I've observed. I actually did a large amount of errands with my wife over the weekend, and we went to a mall, and I just want to let you know, it was vibrant. There were so many people there, and it was great. Like families, friends, and they were all doing the mask thing. Social distancing, I'm not quite sure. To be honest, I really wasn't paying that much attention, but it was good to see people out and about. And the mall's movie theater was open. So I actually asked my wife, could you excuse me? I walked over to the entrance of the movie theater just to look at it and actually look inside and see people on a line getting movie tickets. I'm not going to lie, I almost cried. It was a sight that I have been pining for. And I'm just like, it's going to happen. Like, I'm coming back, baby. I'm going to those movie theaters. I'm going to see those new movies. And it was a very uplifting feeling to actually just see it there, because, you know, this wasn't in my state. You know, I live in New York, but I'm not that far from New Jersey or Connecticut. And both of those states have their movie theaters open. So it was just, to me, that's why I like the kind of life I lead. I celebrate the little things. And this is the tiniest, like almost mouse-like, but it gave me so much hope and happiness. And in terms of my wife, let's just say that she is ready to go on a power hugging spree with so many people that she hasn't been able to hug for an entire year. So she's ready for her human contact, let me tell you. And she's already in school and teaching her kids. So she's gotten the human contact without the physical. But I also do agree with you, Kami. I think that there's one thing that we are going to be very wary of is we're all going to be making sure that no matter where we are, we're going to wash our hands. That is definitely something that I see us all doing and never slacking on at this point in time. I think what's actually very interesting is because of the mask wearing, I actually haven't caught a cold all winter so far, which is crazy. By this time around, I've already gotten at least 3 colds.
Well, you have to think too, though. You're not going out and you're not on the subway as much as you were. You're not commuting as much as you were. So, I mean, there's a lot of factors there. It's not just mask wearing. But I think that also something that you had just said kind of still baffles me, in that why weren't people washing their hands before? You know,
Yeah.
like that's one thing that from the very inception I have not understood. Like, did we really need to make a PSA about washing your hands to adults? Come on.
I could tell you stories that I will not be sharing because I could get into a lot of trouble, but I do have stories to tell you. Maybe I'll tell you them off camera, but yeah, we kind of needed it, to be honest with you. And the other thing is, I just hope that we all learn something from this. And I'm also really curious to see how the corporate world is going to look back and see if they've gained anything. Because, look, I don't know about you guys, but after working from home for almost a year, I don't want to go back to the office. I really don't. I would love the fact that I don't have to spend so much money on commuting. I would love the fact that I could eliminate 2 hours out of my day for commuting for the sake of just getting it dedicated to my work. Because the truth of the matter is, do I actually need to be in my office when it comes to doing my job? No, I don't. If somebody needs me, they can call me, they can email me, or they can do a Zoom session. Now, I would have no issue with getting told by someone, listen, we've got a hands-on deck meeting today. We need everybody in the building. We need everybody at the conference room. Then yes, I'll come in. Chances are there's free food, so you definitely got me filling a seat. But
Well, I think it'll get a lot of employers really thinking about that, though, the bottom dollar. I mean, think about how much money companies saved in the last year just by not having to turn on the lights or not having people be wasteful about office supplies and you know, all of these things that you have to really relook at and say, did I really need this to begin with? And I think that it will allow people to be more intentional in their buying and in their hiring, in their scheduling. And so maybe we will start to see where employers do also see the benefit of allowing their employees to spend quality family time, because that's something we were sorely missing before this happened.
Absolutely.
And probably, and I hope the biggest thing that people take away from 2020 is, although in the end there was a lot of division, but in the very beginning there was a lot of coming together and really realizing what humanity is and what it means to us. Because when you are stripped of that communication, when you are stripped of that availability to be close in proximity with people that you really didn't even think that it meant something to you. You know, a lot of introverts are talking about that, you know, how they don't realize how involved in social functions they missed, even though they found themselves, you know, calling out or making excuses not to be there. But not having that availability or not having that text or that phone call to invite you is weird. It's jarring. And I think now people will look at socializing and, you know, that family time, dinner time, you know, just going back to the dinner table with your families, eating at home. Think about how it changed our eating habits, going out to eat, all of these things. We are now going to appreciate being able to go sit down in our favorite restaurant. So, you know, these are things that I hope people remember, and I hope that we really think about, because these are the things that I'm going to take with me into the year, about just stopping for a second. You know, they say stop and smell the roses. Well, just stop and enjoy your environment, you know?
Stacy, as a mother of two, how do you feel?
I want everybody out of my house.
I knew that was coming. I totally knew that was coming. Totally.
I'm never alone, ever. So yeah. Grant used to travel half the month. He would be gone, you know, in another state half the month. And, you know, my kids would be gone. And I don't get that anymore. So yeah, they need to go.
Well, I know that you've been craving to get to a restaurant at some point in time. You've just been deprived of that little luxury.
Going out.
Oh yeah?
I've been going, our restaurants are open. So I've been going out with one of my friends, probably every other week. But what I really, really miss is the library. Our library is still closed. So I'm going to have the same reaction you had at the movie theater when I get to walk into a library again.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I think a lot of people are missing right now. I mean, I know so many people who are booktubers that just have been dying to get back to their libraries. I mean, I think that one of the things that I was very blessed about is the fact that my local comic book shop was actually open this entire time, though the atmosphere is not what it was before the pandemic hit. But I've been talking to the guy whenever I go to pick up my new books, and he's basically been planning, like, when we're officially all allowed to be in a room together, like, there's going to be a massive party at the store. So I seriously think I might actually stop by and just, you know, mingle with the people, chat with the store owner, because he's a great guy. And I just love, it's a nice little thing in my week to just go there, chat with someone who's not my wife. Not that I have anything against chatting with my wife. I mean, we adore each other's company, even though we are the bickering couple, as Stacy likes to put it. But no, we really do. And we're glad to know that we both have managed. And we're just looking forward to some things that we just haven't had in a while. So in terms of everything else that's going on, because one of the other things that we do here on this show is we take a look at the last month in popular culture in our own lives, whether it's things that we've seen that are brand new or things that are old that we haven't seen in a while, or just things that are just damn cool.
I discovered the Legion of Superheroes, and that is the most exciting thing of the last couple weeks. So
Really?
I've always been a Teen Titans Go fan. Yeah, this is like a whole new chapter of WoW for me. So it's, well, I'm a geek. You guys know this. I'm a nerd, whatever you want to call me. And I like my nostalgia and stuff like that. But as I descend into comic books, I'm also trying to kind of familiarize myself a little bit better with the Marvel universe, because I've always been a DC girl. So to find this Legion of Superheroes is super cool, to know that there is this kind of a department of sorts, this area where you have all these teenagers that are kind of like superheroes in waiting. I mean, they are superheroes, but they haven't fully developed their power. So the way I see it is it's kind of like X-Men in a way. I don't know, you can kind of help me out here, Steve. That's kind of the vibes that I get from this Legion of Superheroes, is that it's just a collective group of teenagers that are just still trying to not only be teenagers and go through the motions of that awkwardness, but then also develop their powers fully and understand and comprehend how to use them. So that's been a really cool like new adventure for me. So that, and I read my first comic book of the year, Something is Killing the Children. That was really good.
Oh, okay.
Very
All
good.
right. My friend who did my comic book show with me on our first episode, Dan, would be very appreciative of that because he loves Something is Killing the Children. And I actually did go and pick up, they had a special edition for like a comic book store appreciation day or something like that. I didn't even know that thing existed. So they made a special foil cover of Something is Killing the Children issue 1. So this was my opportunity to get the book and read it. Now, it was not a bad comic. As a matter of fact, it seemed to me like a much more darker and violent version of Stranger Things because I love the writer. The writer is James Tynion. James Tynion actually is currently writing Batman right now, and he writes a lot of other great comic books. I'm actually reading a very good comic book of his that he started over the summer called The Department of Truth. And I would recommend that to the both of you, specifically because I do know that you both really like to talk about politics. So this has a real political vibe to it. It's basically like a Men in Black story. Like, it's about a guy who ends up joining an organization that basically tells him all those conspiracy theories out there, they're real.
I'm big on that.
They're real, and there are people out there that are trying to make some of these conspiracy theories real. If you want an extra interesting taste about it, the person who leads the Department of Truth is Lee Harvey Oswald. Mind blown.
Oh my God, you just sold me right there.
I'm already, it's
Right
only,
there, done.
it's only 4 issues. It's only 4 issues right now. Issue number 5 is actually coming out at the end of this month. I didn't care much for issue 3, but when issue 4 came out, it brought me right back in. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen because issue 5 is going to be the end of the first story arc. And
a little bit like X-Files.
It's definitely got an X-Files vibe,
Okay.
Stacy. Definitely.
He's got me, Kami.
Yeah, if you guys go and pick up some of those books, let me know what you thought. I'll gladly talk to you guys about it. And I definitely will be bringing that into the conversation in my comics show. But one of the other things is you might want to start trying to get your hands on them now because apparently the movie rights have been sold.
Ooh.
Ah.
Yeah,
Nice.
so I'm very curious about it. I'm glad that you brought up the comics, Kami, because first of all, I will be honest, I'm not a real big Legion of Superheroes fan, but I know who they are. I mean, this is the Silver Age of comic books, the 35th century, I believe, and it's a whole organization of superheroes. They all have the Legion of Superheroes ring that gives them all the ability to fly, which I think is really cool. And you got these really great characters like Saturn Girl and Cosmic Boy and Chameleon Boy and Star Boy and Bouncy Boy, Brainiac 5. Like, I know who they are. I just don't read the comics. Superboy is part of the team at some point in time. Supergirl is part of the team sometimes, but it's supposed to be a real lighthearted, fun ride. Though, when we do our DC animated live show, Kami, I think we may have a little bit of a different opinion to talk about when it comes to the Justice League versus the Fatal Five.
Yes, that was a whole interesting bag of, but we'll save that for that show. But yeah, I've got tons to say about that too.
Yeah, but because of the fact that you mentioned comic books, one of the comics that I actually was reading, now, I've known about this specific superhero for years, ever since I was watching the Super Friends. I even had an action figure, and he showed up on Bruce Timm's Justice League Unlimited. I discovered Hawkman, finally. I started to finally read Hawkman, and it's also Hawkman's 80th anniversary this year alongside Wonder Woman. So it's a big year for DC classic comic book heroes. But Hawkman was created back in the end of the golden age of comic books, and I always knew he existed, but I never read his comic book. And it's crazy that I never did, because his story is so interesting. It's the story of himself as well as Hawk Girl, and that they've basically been star-crossed lovers living and dying and reincarnating throughout time. And so the recent run of Hawkman, which only lasted 29 issues, was written by one of the best writers in the DC Comics company, and that's Robert Vendetti. He's a fantastic writer. I first discovered him on a couple of books that he wrote for Green Lantern, which I also really loved. And the craziest thing about him was people thought that after reading his 29 issues that he was a die-hard Hawkman fan, but he never read a Hawkman comic book in his life. He never cared much for Hawkman. So he basically just took this story and he just took it to the next level. We basically got the place where Hawkman's origins started. Like, it pretty much started at the beginning of time. And it basically, through these issues, it was all about him trying to redeem himself for past sins. And then when he finally gets his job done, and he and Hawkgirl get reunited, and they finally defeat the lingering evil, they're given the opportunity to reincarnate and live one last life. And they're basically told that days will be years to you, like you will live a long life. And they're told and given a choice as to where they want to start their brand new final life together. And they choose to go to the golden age of DC Comics in the 1940s and reunite with their old friends, the Justice Society of America. And I thought that that was one of the most beautiful things to see. And the ending of the story is just, the right way to say is gorgeous. People called it a masterpiece. And to be honest with you, if Hawkman is never brought back to comic books in his own title ever again, if this is the way that Hawkman's legacy ends on his own in the pages of comic books, perfect ending. There was no other way to end the story as good as it was. I highly recommend it.
That sounds cool.
I certainly have a lot of comic books to read. I feel like I'm centuries behind when it comes to this whole idea and concept, but I think that comic books have always been a little intimidating to me because there are so many worlds and so much world building when it comes to going into each comic and how they're interlaced with each other. So it's been an interesting journey, and I've just begun, but I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Well, that's really what it's all about. You know, it's so funny because especially when I watch a lot of community members, especially booktubers, a lot of them are really starting to bring more comics and graphic novels into their reading repertoire, so to speak. And they're not actually reading the classic characters, but you know, when you take a look at where comic books are right now, I mean, there's over 80 years of stories to tell. So it's intimidating. It's like a booktuber picking up a 1,000 plus page book, like picking up that Stormwind Archives Brandon Sanderson book. Like, where do you start? Can you even? Well, it's not that difficult. What you really need is you just need a guiding light. And that's why when I got back into collecting comics back in 2019, I discovered the comic book community. And there are some amazing, knowledgeable people in this community. They let you know what stories from the past are good, stories from the present. They want to talk about what's happening in comics over the next couple of months. They, every single Wednesday, want to let you know what's worth buying, what's not worth buying. I think that that's a wonderful thing because the comic books are very different from books. And that's just because of the fact that you can go into a comic book store, slap about $30 to $50 on the table, and you can walk away with about a dozen or more comic books. So you could get like a ton of reading taken home with you in one day. And there's always new and interesting things that are coming out. Like, I'm trying to do as much research as I can. There are some amazing stories on the way, at least they seem to be, in the coming months, and I'm just really excited to get my hands on them and just share. And now that I'm doing my own comic book show, Kami, I think it's going to be a little bit of a helping hand for you, because we're casual collectors, my friends and I, but we do know a lot of stuff. We're not as good as some of these other big channels. I'd recommend them to you guys as well if you want to get a little bit deeper. But we're fans, we're good readers, and we're just going to share our thoughts.
I think I'm also utilizing my library as much as possible when it comes to comics, because my collecting, I really want to focus on finishing collections this year. I use the word intentional a lot, and you're going to hear that probably way more than you want to from me, but that's my purpose this year, is to be intentional in everything that I do, just from what I say to my presence in a room to my involvement with people, the collaborations, but also in my collecting. And there are some collections that have kind of just been sitting on my shelves incomplete for a while. That goes not only for book collections, but Funko Pop collections that I want to finish. So when it comes to buying new media, I want to be very intentional about my purchases so I can be smart with my money. And so when it comes to comic books, I'm using the heck out of my library this year and just getting a lot of those digitally, just so I can consume a lot and be involved as things kind of, you know, make their surface or make their debut or make a recommendation or something of that nature. But so I can put my money into completing some of the things that I really want to complete this year.
Right. Yeah, I'll definitely give you guys some other very interesting recommendations. And the best part is I'm finding a lot more joy outside of the realm of the well-known superheroes. Not to say that Superman, Spider-Man, Batman, not to say that they're bad, but I'm just finding all of these indie companies, and they're just giving me these fresh stories that are just unlike anything I've ever read. Like there's this 5-part miniseries, issue 2 just came out last week. It's called Erratic. It is like a new version of Spider-Man. It's this geeky boy, and every day he gets superpowers for 10 minutes. He doesn't know when he's going to get them, but he's going to get them. And when he's got those 10 minutes, he's got to figure out how he's going to use them. But there are some really interesting things that a lot of people can relate to. There is some parts of the comic where they make fun of political correctness. There are a whole bunch of teenage things that people are so familiar with. I think it's just a really cute, fun comic. There's another great story that I'm reading called Stillwater, which is from Image Comics. It's the story of a man who gets a letter and is told to come to this little town called Stillwater to get something from a relative. He doesn't recall this town, but when he gets there, he discovers that there's a big secret in this town, and that is nobody dies. And because of the fact that he discovers the secret, they won't let him leave.
That's a little scary.
Well,
I don't know if I'd want to live in a place where nobody dies.
Well, it's a horror comic, and that's definitely something that I thought that you would appreciate, Kami. Absolutely. And then there's another great story that I talked about with my friend Dan on my comic channel called We Live. It's a science fiction story. It's basically about how the big event that's going to officially end the entirety of life on Earth is coming, and an alien race has basically told the humans, we will take 5,000 of your children and your species will survive. We want to keep them safe from this big disaster. So it's the story of this brother and sister that are just trying to get to one of these beacons where they can get into one of these ships and be safe. And the artwork is gorgeous. It's beautiful. And it reminds me of like a Studio Ghibli movie, but a more mature Studio Ghibli movie, like Nausicaa Valley of the Wind or The Princess Mononoke. It's really interesting, and I just love the fact that these independent companies have the liberty to do things that are a little bit outside the box. I will definitely say that it's easier to get a lot of reading done through comics these days for me than it is with books. I mean, have any of you read any good books recently, lately? Anything new?
I'm not reading anything new, but I'm reading a lot.
What are you reading?
I'm reading a lot of biblical fiction, like way ancient historical fiction stuff. I just finished a story about Moses.
Oh.
and now I'm reading a story about oh, who has the dreams?
Joseph.
Joseph. Yeah, it's called Dreamers. It's about Joseph having his dreams. So yeah, I'm reading a lot, but I'm way obsessed with historical fiction right now. Like the older the better. And but that's something I've always been interested in, but I've just kind of found my love for it. So yeah.
That's cool though.
Yeah, I like it. Takes me out of this time.
I can't disagree with you there.
Yeah, it is an escape.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing all of these people talking about all the books they want to read and all the books that are coming out in 2021. Honestly, I really don't have that many books themselves outside of comics on my to-read list. I mean, I actually did read a newer book. It actually came out at the end of last year. I didn't even know that it was coming out, and I found out about it about like 4 days before it officially hit the market. And I wanted to get it because it was the sequel to one of my favorite books of all time, and that, of course, is Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline, because I loved Ready Player 1 so much, and I even love the movie, too. It's very different from the book, but it's good. And I gotta tell you, it's not that Ready Player 2 was bad, but it was one of those times where I just said, why did it come out? It's like Toy Story 4. He did the best job that he could, but if it never came out, it wouldn't have bothered me. You know, I wouldn't have lost
Toy
sleep
Story
over it.
4 was such a blatant waste of time, and it pissed me off so much. I used to like Bo Peep. Now she can go take a long walk off of a short pier.
I don't know if I've seen it.
Don't bother. 3 was perfect. 3 was perfection. There's no way that you needed to revisit that. It ended the whole series perfectly. 4 was just unnecessary.
Is 3 the one where he goes to college?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I saw 3.
Yeah.
I haven't seen 4.
Don't bother. As someone of the generation that grew up with Toy Story, you're just going to be disappointed because it's literally just a breakup of the gang. And that's not how you want to drive off into the sunset. You want to believe that the toys will always remain together because they're Andy's toys and they should be together.
I was devastated with 3.
Implementation of new characters was unnecessary also. So no to Toy Story 4 and everything about it. It can die. A painful death.
I think what was really funny was I actually went to see it with my wife just because of the fact that I don't want to break my streak of seeing every Disney Pixar film in theaters. I mean, I went to see the original Toy Story. It's so weird to know that that movie last year celebrated its 25th anniversary. That is crazy. I had been seeing every single Disney Pixar movie, good, bad, or indifferent, in theaters. And because of the fact that Soul went straight to Disney Plus, my streak has not been broken. I want to make that clear. And I know that it's coming on, I believe it's coming to Blu-ray in February, so I am excited to watch it. A lot of people said it's wonderful. But, you know, my wife did not want to see it at all. She did not want to see Toy Story 4 at all. And I don't know how people feel about the fact that now they're making a Toy Story prequel.
Really?
Why? Leave it alone. Like, go make something.
Yeah.
That's what irritates me about Hollywood and animation and all of these things right now. Why are we stuck in this rut of reboots and remakes and revisits of things that have already been? Are writers just not creative anymore? Can they not write something new? Can they not create something for a new generation to love and admire and claim as their own? Like, stop taking the stuff that we grew up with and trying to reinvent or reimagine it. I realize that there are things that work over time. And something that I bring up often that comes up in conversation, you know this, Steve, because it's part of my DNA genetic makeup, is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They have reinvented themselves a multitude of times, but it makes sense because they're trying to latch on to a new generation. They're trying to keep the interest in the turtles but make it relevant to the times. Something like that works. But when you're literally taking something and you're doing nothing with it, you're just trying to create a backstory, or you're trying to, I mean, a prequel is not needed. The 3 original Toy Story films are plenty to tell the whole story and to leave you feeling satisfied. I wish these reboots and remakes and revisits would just stop. Even some of the shows that we enjoyed growing up, these actors are old now. There's nobody believes it, you know, like there's no storyline that takes me back, that makes me miss these characters. Leave it in history, because some things are beautifully encapsulated in a timepiece, and just leave it as it is. Will it get old? Will the jokes not be as funny? Will, you know, the pop culture references and say like Buffy the Vampire Slayer not make sense to you? That's just ageism. It's gonna happen. But we need to stop trying to reinvent something that's already been created. It's already had its time. And that's why I love Sarah Michelle Gellar, because she said, no, I'm not going to go back and do a reboot of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. There's no need for it. I've said it all, we did it all, we ended it on a good note. Just leave it alone, you know?
Yeah, the problem is everything new that people want to create, they're afraid because it may not be politically correct. That's the problem. Everyone's just too afraid to do something new because they're afraid they're going to piss somebody off, and they just don't want the Twitter mob coming after them. It's disgusting.
Well, I think enough of that gets shut down anyways. I think so many things are scrutinized before it even leaves the door. A lot of things don't even have the opportunity to have air breathed into their lungs because somebody's saying it's not this or that enough, or it doesn't have enough this, or it doesn't have enough of, you know, whatever they're looking for. And so I think that it does stifle creativity. And you've heard about this quite a bit in the writing industry, because so many people are afraid to put something out there with the notion that they haven't tailored it enough to suit the needs of what people are looking for. When before, a writer would just have a thought, they would write a book and they would put it out there, and if it resonated with you as a reader, you picked it up, you bought it, and you talked about it. Now it's like it's got to fit this mold in order for you even to get to that point. And I wish, and I know it's easier said than done, but I just wish writers would write and look for their audience the old-fashioned way. Like, why do you have to put things out there asking people what they want to read? Doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose of you being the creator and the writer? Now you're just essentially creating something to cater to people, and it's still going to piss people off. I mean, doesn't anyone realize that? Nobody is perfect. You're not, no matter what you do or say or act or think or portray, there's still going to be the opposite of something out there that somebody is not going to like. You can do 1,000,001 things right, but you could slightly say something, differently, or maybe with not the right adjective or whatever the case may be, and they're going to point out your faults, not the 1,000,001 things you did right. So people just need to they just need to create, and they need to be content with who they are as a person. We need to stop trying to cater to people to tailor us, because we're losing originality, we're losing creativity and all of that. And it's just, it's sad. It's sad to see people trying so hard.
You're preaching to the choir, Kami. I'm not going to disagree with you in the slightest, because you're absolutely right. There's so many things that I'm noticing right now in this world that are ways to take away the individuality of us. I mean, you see it everywhere. I didn't even plan on talking about this, but I'm going to get it out there in the opening right now. I think that one of the worst things in this world right now is minimalization. You want to talk about turning somebody into a mindless drone in rapid pace? You tell people that you don't need all of these things in your life. The thing is, collecting is an extension of one's personality. It basically creates a physical form of you. Everything that you put into your world that you have the ability to share with others is what makes you who you are. And the fact that there are people in this world that are basically saying you shouldn't have this because it's only going to cause clutter and stress and it's just going to make you miserable. Well, I just want to know what's going on in these people's heads. You know, I really would like to know, what do you gain from not having something in your house that makes you happy? I mean, what you're basically saying is your essential needs are what's going to make you happy. No, your essential needs are what are going to keep you alive the next day. That's what your essentials are for. It's your wants that truly make you happy. Your last meal is going to make you satisfied, but it's not going to leave that warm, fuzzy feeling in your mind that makes you just escape, brings you to a different place. I mean, am I wrong? Stacy, what do you think?
Well, I'm not as big a collector as you guys are, but I definitely, you know, like my stuff. I don't think everybody has to be minimalistic to be happy. I mean, you know, if you want collections, then do that. If you want to have nothing in your house, then have nothing. But yeah, I don't have a strong opinion on it. Just
I'll give you guys an example. I mean, when I even take a look at myself and my own brother, like, you know, he's great and all. I mean, like, we're two very different people, though. I was a collector. I was a very entertainment-driven person. He was just a sports guy. He liked that kind of stuff. He didn't have what I had. And I think that's the reason why it's not that we didn't get along. We just didn't really have much to talk about, you know? I mean, look, Jen and I, we have different interests and stuff, but I like taking a look at my wife's collection of books. There's a whole bunch of books on her shelves that, you know, if they weren't in my grasp, I probably never would have picked them up and read them. She's got some interesting things. Everything from historical fictions to actual true stories. I mean, my wife, you know, she sees some of the craziness that I collect, you know, and Kami is one of those people in this world that fuels my collection to grow, and that, of course, is my Funko Pop collection. I also cannot get over the fact that Funko Pops are reaching their 10-year anniversary this year.
what?
Funko,
Really?
Yeah, the
I
Pops.
feel like I just heard about them like 2 years ago.
Yeah, they officially came out on the market in 2011. That's when they first showed up. I remember I had just started dating Jen back in 2013. And that was when I first started seeing them in stores, like in the weirdest of places. Like, I was seeing them in Dylan's Candy Bar. I was seeing them in Barnes & Noble. Like, they were everywhere, and I was like, what are these things? And I just wasn't interested at the beginning. But as Brian Mariotti, the current CEO of the company, once said, by 2025 there will be a Funko Pop in every household around the world. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, because we're already in 2021. We're getting close, but eventually there's going to be something that Funko makes that is just going to pull on that nostalgia heartstring. And for me, it was when they made Back to the Future Pops. When Back to the Future Pops came out, I was officially hooked. I mean, look, here are two of my newest additions to my collection. I got Inspector Gadget, who I absolutely love because that's my childhood right there, and my adult animation fan, Eric Cartman as Osimo from my favorite episode of South Park.
Nice. Yeah, I got Inspector Gadget too. I got the Chase though. He's got his badge in his hand.
Yeah, and I also have to admit that one of the cool things that Funko has recently made. What do you, Kami? I might as well ask you this because I don't even know if Stacy even heard of these yet. What do you think of the soda can figures?
Okay. And again, it's another collection. And I really had to think about this too, because if you think about the inception of the Funko line, when it started with Wacky Wobblers,
yes,
everything you get to a point where, okay, we've made it all, we've seen it all, we've done it all. So in order to keep the brand going, we've got to try something new. So when Wacky Wobblers kind of came to their fruition, then you had the Funko Pops that started, and there was a lot of wobbler collectors that were very hesitant on starting Funko Pops. It took Funko Pops a while to catch on. So now here we are with Soda Pops, and you're basically seeing the same characters. It's not like you're going to see different characters. You're not going to see different faces. They're basically going back to the creation of the Wobblers, and that they're now making them into these, what are they, like 3-inch figures to fit in a can? Is that what they are? They're like 3 inches?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Look this up.
yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not going to be collecting as many of these as the Funko Pops. I mean, when I collect Funko Pops, I mean, like I've been collecting since 2013, and I really want to make sure that I get the ones that really speak to me. So after collecting for about going on 7, maybe even 8 years right now, my math is not in my head so fresh right now, I still don't even have 350 of them in my collection. So I would like to say that my collection is relatively small, considering Funko Pop collectors out there. But when it comes to soda can figures, I'm going to be, if I'm going to start collecting some of them, I'm going to be extra, extra picky. Like, you've really, really got to connect with me. So I have one, and it's Bob Ross. I just had to get it because it was Bob Ross. And the reason why I like these a little bit right now is because it's a little bit of a game. Because they specifically tell you each one of these soda can figures comes with a chase. And
that's kind of how they get you, though. I mean, every collection has, well, and inevitably, I hate to reuse the magical word, but it is a chase. You are chasing the idea that you're going to get a variant, that you're going to get this, you know, a very rare collectible to add to your collection. And then it just becomes an obsession. And I've collected a lot of stuff over the years. This isn't even a fraction of what I own in terms of Disney and Funko Pops. It's funny because you said you've been collecting for 7 or 8 years and you're just at around the 350 mark. I've been collecting since 2015 and I have reached 600.
That's amazing.
Top 600.
That is crazy. I mean, but
it's not. I mean, how much is too much, you know? And I'm that's why my, again, intention on collection this year is very specific. I want to finish specific collections that I've started, pairings, sets, whatever the case may be. But that's why I'm very hesitant on starting the soda cans. Is there ones that I like? Yes. Is there ones that I would like to add to my collection? Possibly. But, you know, again, where am I going to put this? If you collect too much, you start to box yourself in, no matter what kind of spacing you have. I have a very generous husband who allows me to splash things everywhere in the house. So, you know, I have a few things here and there in every room, but I also have to be, you know, polite and say, okay, I've got to give you space. I can't put, you know, a soda can in every room, you know, so I have to be very careful now as to what I add to my collection. And I think if I was to buy any soda pops, it would be the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because those are really the only ones that have screamed at me so far.
Yeah, I am only planning to get one more soda can figure at this point in time, and it's Roger Rabbit, and that's just because of the fact that I adore Roger Rabbit. Now, I'm not aiming to get the chases because that's the reason why I got the Bob Ross soda can figure. I got it because of the fact that the chase was Bob Ross with a flocked head. I thought that was awesome. So my wife and I said, if we get it, that's great. But if we don't get it, we're not going to cry about it. I mean, I love the fact that you told me that you put the Funko Pops in other rooms of your house. We actually do that too. We actually have Funko Pops in our kitchen, but they're only food-related Funko Pops. We have the Morton Salt Girl, the Tootsie Pop Mr. Owl. We have Guy Fieri. And we also have the Coca-Cola Polar Bear. And when they officially get to my house, I will be putting the Fred Flintstone's Fruity Pebbles and the Barney Rubble Cocoa Pebbles in the kitchen too, because it's food. Food-related products go with the food. That's the way I thought about it. I mean, when we only had Guy Fieri in there, I thought it was really funny to say Guy Fieri's our kitchen guardian. He watches over our kitchen for us while we sleep. But
just make sure you put those in those hard case protectors, though, because cardboard collects smells, and if you keep them in the kitchen, they're going to collect all the kitchen smells. So put them in those hard case plastic ones.
Yeah, they're actually far, far away from the appliances and stuff like that. They're in a unit on the other side, like on a high shelf. I doubt they're gonna get the smells, though. If they get the smells, honestly, I wouldn't be upset about it. I'll just be honest with you about that. But yeah,
well, actually, that's cool because I think that's a true collector right there too. And I'm trying to get a little bit looser about my collections and taking things out of boxes for the first time, because I have always been an MIP girl. And so when I tell my mom now that I've removed something from the box, she's like, oh my God, there goes the value. What are you going to do with your life? It's
the value is not the monetary. It's not about the monetary value. It's about the collector's value.
There's a collector on YouTube. His name is Top Pops, and he does a video like every day. He had said something that really struck with me, and I hope that the new generation of collectors really hold on to this, because I think our generation of collectors are more the MIB, never removed from box kind of people. But I think that, one of the things that he said that really stuck with me is that the beauty of these Funko Pops is the joy of being able to remove them and have that tangible effect with them, that Funko has made it to where you can open it from the bottom or the top, you can take it out, you can look at it, you can photograph it, and you can do this multiple times. That, as a collector, not only are you getting your money's worth out of these things, but you're also getting to enjoy it. I can tell you there's things that I still have in my closet that I've never opened, I never will open, but I haven't ever fully enjoyed them because of that. Are they more valuable? Yes. But did I get to have the value in my home? No, because I never took it out of the box and got to play with it,
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I love about them. The fact that you can take them out of the box and you can put them right back in there just to store them. That's why I think this specific line of collectibles has lasted as long as they have. And the same thing with the soda can figures. You can put them right back into the soda can to store them. I love that. I'm actually excited that next week I'm excited that Funko is going to be doing their fair week or something like that, or whatever it is, because of all the toy fairs that are not happening. So we're going to be seeing a lot of new products. I mean, I'm definitely going to see my collection expand this year just because of the fact that they're officially going to have the Seinfeld line and the Frasier line. So I am definitely anticipating more surprises as the year progresses, but I still don't see myself reaching a number like 400 for a long time. And now that I've actually changed the way that I position the way my pops are on display, now I actually put them on my shelf profile view instead of in the front. Now there's a whole bunch of space for more storage, which is great. So
that's what I did in my closet. I keep them all in the closet in this room, but I profiled them all. But now I want to build a shelf so that I can actually profile and remove them from box and display them, because it'll be considerably easier to photograph them for Instagram if I have accessibility like that, and I'm not having to fumble with taking them out of the box all the time. Or even like how I have my horror pops, they're over here in the corner, but they're all stacked on top of each other from like desk to ceiling. And so it makes it really challenging to take something out, and because I have to literally take off like 9 of them and carefully, it's like Tetris in here. So
I'm all about Tetris. I don't want to
deal with that anymore.
I am all about Tetris. Yeah. I actually once was joking around when Jen and I were actually house hunting, and I had a feeling I was going to be able to find a place where I could just take all my pops and just stack them on top of each other in like a corner of the house somewhere in the basement. I was like, so because of the fact that it was 2016, I was using a Donald Trump voice, and I was like, when we move, I will take my pops and I will build a great wall. And it got her to laugh a little bit, which I thought was really funny. So I have to ask you another question, Kami, because I talked about this briefly. Did you ever get your hands on a box of Chocolate Life cereal yet?
I haven't found it anywhere.
I cannot believe it.
I cannot. Ever since you mentioned it to me, it has been a quest, and I have been to every grocery store in my area, and I still can't find it. So as soon as I do, I will make sure to share that with you because it is on my bucket list of things to find and eat this year.
I gotta tell you both, I love my cereals. I might as well just ask this right now, both of you. What do you think is the greatest breakfast cereal of all time? Or are you, Stacy? I don't even know. Are you a cereal person? Do you even like to eat cereal? Some people don't.
I do.
So what's your favorite?
Cookie Crisp.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Kami and yourself, what was yours again?
I would have to say my favorite has always been Frosted Mini Wheats.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that one. There are some times where I will literally eat it by the box in a week. And then there are just some times where I just need to cut myself off because I've had too much. I mean, I could get into so many arguments. I think the greatest breakfast cereal of all time is Cinnamon Toast Crunch. That is just perfection to me. I mean, for crying out loud, Coffee Mate even makes a Cinnamon Toast Crunch coffee creamer, which I do use. And I just found, I actually bought some coffee creamers this weekend. I found M&M's coffee creamer. So that's going to be interesting. And I didn't buy them both. But there is from International Delight, ladies and gentlemen and everybody in between, listen up, because if you like coffee, you're going to want to try these. There is now Fruity Pebbles and Cocoa Pebbles coffee creamers from International Delight.
I saw those the other day at Walmart.
I bought a Fruity Pebbles, and maybe that's just because of the fact that when I was taking my 2 weeks off from work, I decided to just act like a kid and buy myself a box of Fruity Pebbles for the first time in forever. And let me tell you, it was delicious. I swear to God, I might have pooped out a rainbow or two. But it was great to just have that cereal for the first time in so long. But the coffee creamer, I grabbed it, I brought it to the shopping cart, and I had Jen as my witness. And I was like, if this disappoints me, I'm going to be very mad.
Was it good?
Haven't tried it yet. I'll let you know.
I just became obsessed. There's a coffee creamer. It's in a Ready Whip can. I think Ready Whip makes it.
Okay.
And then you like squirt it like how you would use Ready Whip. And it's called Nitro Creamer.
I have never seen that.
Oh, it's so good. It makes like the perfect foam on top of your coffee. It's like professional.
You know, I am just obsessed with coffee creamers right now. I've never been someone that took his coffee with no sweetener in it, you know? And it's just amazing that it's great to be alive in a country like America because you can make your coffee taste like anything sweet that you want right now. Like I've had Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, I've had Snickers, I've had Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Dove Dark Chocolate, a sugar cookie. For crazily, it was made to be like Buddy the Elf's sugar cookie, which was so weird to me. And of course, anything pumpkin spice. Anything pumpkin spice and just so many different flavors. Chocolate caramel, s'mores, cannoli, white chocolate raspberry. Like, man, there may be a lot of things that piss me off in this world, but damn, when I have my morning coffee, let me just say I am rarely ever disappointed.
Yeah, with sugar cookie with the elf on the front for all of December, and then pumpkin spice was my November coffee creamer. So there with you.
You know what? It's funny because like for years I never had pumpkin. I never actually knew that pumpkin because I never liked pumpkin pie. until I officially started drinking pumpkin coffee from Dunkin' Donuts. And it's just like, now I just want pumpkin anything. Like, I've now had pumpkin cheesecake, pumpkin ice cream, pumpkin soup. I love it all. I love it all. Pumpkin is a gift from the gods, I think. I actually was taking a look at some of the things you both wanted to talk about, and now I want to hear some about it. So who wrote the thing about the slasher films? I thought that was you, Stacy.
I didn't write anything. I forgot.
Well, I want to know. Well, I want to know because I feel so horrible that Kami and I are basically yakking our ears off, and you're just looking all cozy there, which is great. But I want to hear, what are you watching? What are you reading? Tell me. I want to know. That's why you're here.
I just made it to season 3 of Paul Dark, which is a historical fiction show. It was on PBS, like Masterpiece, one of those shows. It's outstanding. And I think when that is over, because there's only 5 seasons, I think I'm going to get into Downton Abbey, because I never watched it. Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah, I've never watched it. And I know that's a big thing. And since I like historical fiction so much, I think I'm going to get into that. But my daughter and I have been watching the original, like, Hollywood monsters. What is that, what they're called?
Oh, the Universal movie monsters.
The Universal monsters. So we've seen Creature of the Black Lagoon,
okay,
The Invisible Man, and then the other night we watched The Mummy from like the 1930s.
So you're like watching all the classics, like Bela Lugosi and Lon Chaney and Boris Karloff, all that stuff. Kami, I know, likes that stuff as well.
Yeah. Well, I have a show and tell for y'all.
Okay.
So, I'll just go ahead and get it out of the way. So, this isn't mine; it's my daughter's. I got it for her birthday. But we've played this game. Have you seen this?
Oh, how is it?
It's so good.
I have, and I want to know, how is it?
It's so good. I freaking love it. So we've only played it once. And when you break out the instructions, you're like, this is way complicated. There's a lot in there. But it has like a playthrough thing. So my husband was like reading the instructions and we were playing through the instructions. And once you start playing it, everything makes sense. And it was way easier than what it seemed like it was going to be. It was so fun. So there's villagers that you put on the board, and the villagers are all characters from the movies or from the books or whatever.
That is so cool.
Yeah, so my daughter's a big fan of the monsters, and she's read Frankenstein, Dracula. She has the Invisible Man book she's reading right now. And so she was recognizing all the different villager names, and it was just a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. And there's all these different ways to play. So you're trying to save villagers from the different monsters. So you can play it all by yourself, right? So yeah, like Kami, if you don't have anybody to play, you can literally play this game by yourself, and it's you against the monsters. And so you can play where it's you against just Dracula. And if that's too easy, then you can play against Dracula and Frankenstein, or you and against 4 monsters to keep like upping the level. It's amazing.
You know what you guys should do? I think what you guys should do is you should definitely take a look at those classic Universal movie monster movies and compare them to some of the more recent incarnations. Like, you and your daughter, I think, would have a great discussion comparing like the classic Bela Lugosi Dracula with the Francis Ford Coppola Bram Stoker's Dracula from 1992.
Yeah, definitely. I will say the newer mummies with Brendan Fraser are so much better than the black and white ones.
Well, that's just because it's Brendan Fraser. You know,
the movies are so much. So I was surprised when we started watching The Mummy that the mummy character throughout the movie, he wasn't wrapped up in like cloth.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but he doesn't even look like a mummy. Like, I was expecting him to be like, all wrapped up. He wasn't.
You know, do you know someone, or are you as well some of those people, like when you're doing something and there's something on TV, like a movie that you absolutely love, you'll just leave it on as background noise? Like, do you do that? My wife, when it comes to her doing that, it is the Mummy movies.
Oh, yeah.
It's also anything Jack Ryan, because she loves the Jack Ryan movies like Clear and Present Danger and The Hunt for Red October, stuff like that. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes she'll put on Stripes, which is also fun. You know, I love that movie. I don't know if she does that, but oh, that's what you do.
I can have that on in the background all the time.
Yeah, I can't do that. I've tried. But it's like if ever a movie comes on, you know, like just the other night, Jen was doing some work for some lesson planning for school, and she was channel surfing, and Tommy Boy was on. And I came into the room, and I just sat down, and I just finished watching the movie with her because that's like one of my favorites.
It's got great lines in it.
Oh, you know what? I think it's one of the greatest comedies ever made. You know, the 90s was such a great time for creativity. And I think the best part about the 90s, I was just saying this the other day, when it comes to all the comedies that came out in the 90s, some of them were so silly and stupid, but they made you laugh. They were just so much fun to watch. And that actually reminds me of an old show that I am rewatching right now. I have it on DVD. It's so upsetting because it was only one season. I'm rewatching Freaks and Geeks right now, and that is just an amazing. I relate to that show so much. And I'm not even the biggest fan of Judd Apatow or Paul Feig, but that show, it's just something truly special. And it's just such a shame that NBC just wanted it gone the minute it hit the airwaves. They hated that show so much. They didn't understand why they had it on the air. They thought that it was just a horrible show because it showed losers on TV. Well, you know something? That's like 80% of kids that go to high school. This is what they are. This is how they feel, regardless of what time period you're living in. That's a general high school student's life. It was so relatable. And also it was just so interesting to see some of these actors literally in their late teen years. Like Seth Rogen was 17 on that show. That is just crazy.
I never watched that show when it was out.
Yeah, it's such a great show. It really is.
Is it from the 90s?
It came out in 1999.
I was in England.
Yeah. I actually missed it entirely when it was airing on television, but there were a lot of people that actually did talk to me about it. I started watching some of the reruns, and then I finally got to watch the entire series on Netflix because there were some episodes that were actually not aired on NBC. But it was such a good show. I loved it. And I just wish that there could be some more shows like that.
Remember My So-Called Life?
Of course, with Claire Danes. Unfortunately, I didn't get MTV until I was 15 years old. That's when my parents finally broke and got cable. So I missed the entire Nicktoons era.
Ren and Stimpy?
I missed Ren and Stimpy.
I loved Ren and Stimpy.
Hey, I had the Disney Afternoon. I wasn't complaining. I had that, and I had Tiny Toons, and I had Animaniacs. I was okay.
Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah, I missed. You know something? I don't care for Beavis and Butthead. I love Daria, though. Daria's great.
Daria was great, too.
That's what I just bought on DVD. I bought the entire series on DVD. That is something I have to have because Daria speaks to my evil soul. I love that.
Yes.
Daria was great.
Yes, it's Sick Sad World, everybody. No, it's just like there are, you know how they always say it's very difficult for a movie to go beyond its predecessor, you know, or at least live up to its predecessor? Well, there are very few spin-offs on television that can actually go beyond the show that they're based on. And I think that Daria is one of the most successful spin-offs. The most successful spin-off, as far as I'm concerned, is Frasier. Frasier surpasses Cheers on every level, and I've watched both of those shows. They're great. But Frasier is so much better than Cheers, and I think that Daria is so much better than Beavis and Butthead. So, yeah, it's nice to take this little trip down memory lane because who in this room wants to feel really old right now?
How can you make
Seriously.
me feel any older than I am?
This movie turns 35 this year,
Oh,
and I just watched it for the very first time in years. And
walking.
and the scariest thing about An American Tail is that that was the time where Disney was losing money to these movies. It was just like, well, Don Bluth originally worked for Disney. I mean, Don Bluth is responsible for one of my personal favorite Disney classics, and that's The Rescuers. And the
I
thing
love
that
the Rescuers.
and the thing
And the
that I
Rescuers
love,
Down Under.
that one's actually better than the original. I think The Rescuers Down Under is so much better than the original Rescuers.
Yeah, I like that one better.
Is that Orville back there? Yeah, I love that. I had that pop ride as well, Cami. I love it. That is one of the best pops that Funko has ever made. I want to let that be known.
Awesome.
Hands down.
love him.
Yeah, I love this pop. And there's so much detail. I mean, even to the matches in the back with the little suitcases.
Yes,
little goggles.
absolutely. I love
How
it.
its eyes look beady and big. Yeah, I love it. When I opened this pop, I was just screaming with delight. I was just so happy. It's just perfection.
Every single time I take that one out of the box, Tomorrow Is Another Day always pops into my head. Sometimes I'll just turn on, I'll find the song on YouTube, and I'll just listen to it while I'm looking at that pop, because that's what it reminds me of. But what I was trying to say was, Rescuers Down Under has the better story, but I think The Rescuers has the better villain. I love Madame Medusa. It's like after Don Bluth left, Disney wasn't really giving us that many great Disney classics until we got The Little Mermaid, though I will definitely say that The Great Mouse Detective is so underappreciated. I love The Great Mouse Detective, but Don Bluth gave us this. Yes, he's one of my favorite villains of all time, next to Hades. I got my Ratigan as well. I love Ratigan. I mean, it's Vincent Price. How could you lose?
I know, right?
Yeah, I love that pop as well. I have him. It was so great to finally get that pop. But the thing about The Secret of NIMH, An American Tail, and The Land Before Time, and even All Dogs Go to Heaven, it's like they were kids' movies, but they really felt more like adult subject nature in so many interesting ways. I mean, like, An American Tail is definitely a good one for kids, but there's so much history in that movie. Like, you literally see the pogroms in Russia. You see the mass Eastern European migration to America. And
there are no cats in America.
Yep. And it's just it's a great movie. I absolutely adore it. It really is. And I actually couldn't believe that Inception turned 10 years old last year. And I watched Tenet because I finally got the opportunity to see it. And I'm not the biggest Christopher Nolan fan, but I did appreciate the movie for what it was. I definitely need to watch it a couple more times to really understand it, but it made me want to watch Inception again because I only saw Inception once in theaters and I never saw it again. I never understood why, because I remember really liking it. So I had the ability to watch it for free on Amazon Prime, and I watched it again for the first time since I saw it in theaters, and I loved it. I thought Inception was great, and I really need to get that in. I need to get it in my DVD collection. I really have to finally do that. And I think that if I watch Tenet at least 5 more times, I have a feeling it's going to be in my collection as well, because Tenet takes what Inception is and just turns it up to 11. That's what Tenet is. So much more complex, so much more innovative and creative, but still great cast, great story, great music. It's just Christopher Nolan, you know, he's got some great movies, but some movies that are not so great. But when he comes out with a great movie, I just have to see it. And seeing that movie for the first time on the small screen just shows me, and I seriously believe that people are not going to let movie theaters die, because you cannot appreciate Tenet for the first time as on a small screen as you would if you saw it on a big screen. I wish I could have seen that movie in theaters. It would have probably been absolutely gorgeous on the big screen.
I haven't seen it yet.
I liked it. I thought it was, like I said, it's complex. I definitely need to watch it a few more times, but I do like it. Are any of you watching The Queen's Gambit? So many people are talking about that show.
No, but I probably should.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are saying.
It's probably something I would like.
Are any of you watching His Dark Materials?
Is that Cassandra Clare?
No. That's that's oh God, I don't even know what the author's name is. I am so terrible. Did you ever see The Golden Compass?
Yeah, I read those books. I didn't know it was a show, but I read the books. Huh?
Yeah, it is.
His last name is Pullman.
It's Bill Pullman?
Philip.
I don't know what his first name is.
Bill Pullman.
I thought it was Christopher Pullman. Oh, is it Bill? Okay, Pullman. I knew that because I remember that from the golden cover.
Yeah, that's right. It's Phil Pullman, not Bill Pullman. Bill Pullman plays the president of Independence Day. That's who Bill Pullman is, not Phil. No, His Dark Materials is now just finished its second season on HBO. It basically was what filled the gap when Game of Thrones officially ended. And it's good. I think the TV, and honestly, like I saw the 2005 Golden Compass film. It was good, but I didn't think that it was one of the better films, though I did appreciate it for what it was. But I think for a story like His Dark Material that is very complex, a television show suits it better. Did any of you see the movie Logan?
No.
Okay. The reason why I'm saying
Wolverine?
Yeah.
No, haven't.
Yeah, because the reason why I was telling you that was because in Logan, there is a little girl in the movie who plays his daughter, who is actually a character in the world of comics. The actress's name is Daphne Keane. She is the one who plays Lyra in the HBO show, His Dark Materials.
Wow.
I personally think the show is great. And Lin-Manuel Miranda plays Lee Scoresby, and he plays him beautifully.
Those books are dark.
Yeah, but
I read them
show
when
is
they
great.
first came out, and I was in my early 20s, and I was like, wow, this is creepy as hell. But they were like children's books.
I highly recommend the show. I think it's really good. And we haven't finished watching the second season yet. We're 2 episodes to go. Also, James McAvoy is on the show as well. So if you're a fan of his, that's a little plus right there. But I think that as a television show, it works. And I'm really excited to see where this show is going to go. I think it's fantastic. I really, really do. I highly recommend.
Cool.
Kami, talk to us a little bit about some Goosebumps, a little blast from the past right there.
So Goosebumps is actually a little bit not my generation. It's a little bit young for me. I remember when Goosebumps first came out, obviously I was into much darker, older for me horror, but I remember my sister, who's 8 years younger than me, just loving watching it on television and then just being enamored with the books. And I was just excited to get books into her hand because my sister is not the reader that I am. I'm sorry?
I think Goosebumps came out would they come out in the early 90s? That's what Stacy was asking.
I think 92 was the first, 92, 93 was the first Goosebumps.
Yeah, early 90s.
And then the show was like mid 90s, 94, 95. I remember
94, 95. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. And so my sister was very much into it, but I was just like, no, I don't want to go backwards. I was trying to be cool at the time. But it's something that I think if you are a horror buff, if you consider yourself a horror aficionado, you like to collect nostalgia, that you have to just partake in Goosebumps. So when I get this wild idea in my mind, I'm like, okay, I got to go big or go home. So I decided to go on a quest, and I now am the proud owner of all 60 original Goosebumps.
That's amazing.
I went all out. So I'm really excited though, because I came across a lot at a local thrift store of a gentleman who brought in his son's books, and he was very meticulous about keeping them immaculate. So there's no cracked spines. There's a few that have some wear on them, but I mean, almost brand new. They're perfect. And I got a really cool surprise in one of them. I opened it up and there's an original Goosebumps bookmark in there. So that was super cool. I mean, just little things like that as a collector, you want to come across stuff like that. So I am going to dive into that whole series and I'm going to read it front to back, top to bottom. I'm just so excited. In addition to collecting Goosebumps, I'm also meticulous about getting the rest of the R.L. Stine YA series before YA was even YA. So I've got a lot of the Fear Street that is not by any means complete though. I mean, that goes on for days. But I would probably say comfortably at least a fourth of that collection now, maybe a little bit more, maybe closer to half, but I don't want to give in full swing because I don't know a number as in terms of completion for that. And I am only 2 books away from finally getting my Christopher Pike collection back. That is like everything. So I'm just on a nostalgia trip. I'm just, like I said, I'm really intentional about completions and completing things that I've been collecting for a long time, but something always gets in the way, you know, where something will come out and I'm like, oh, I need to get that, I need to get this, and then I forget what I'm trying to do. So yeah, Goosebumps though, so excited about it. I'm just excited to see what the hype was all about and just to see if they've really lived up to the tell of time. You know, I mean, think about it, that's, you know, almost 30 years old now. That's crazy to even think about it in terms of that.
I would like to know your thoughts when you read them about 2 specific Goosebumps books. I haven't read them all, but I have read a couple of them. I would love to hear your thoughts on The Night of the Living Dummy. And I would definitely like to hear your thoughts on It Came From Beneath the Sink. I believe that is book 7 and book 30.
Okay.
Those are books that out of all the books in Goosebumps, those are the 2 that I distinctly remembered reading and really, really liking out of all of them. Not to say that the ones that I read were bad, but those were the 2 that I just remembered really liking because Night of the Living Dummy, you know, that's like the child's version of Child's Play. That's what it reminded me of a great deal. So
I always remembered the cover of that book, even though I had never read it, because it always reminded me of it's extremely creepy, but I always remembered it in comparison to the dummy that appears in one of the early Buffy episodes. I'm like, oh my God, that looks like the Goosebumps dummy. That's so creepy. And that's always been one of my most creepiest episodes of dealing with that. I think his name was Sid, and he was just super weird. But I'm really excited to get to that one, so I'm glad you mentioned it. And also Say Cheese and Die, because that is so popular. A lot of people think it's so creepy, so I want to just see what this creep factor really is.
Yeah, I think the other one that I really liked was Piano Lessons Can Be Murder. I also think that was a good one. I think
it's going to be fun.
I read one of the older I don't know if it's a Fear Street one, but it's one of the older ones for I think it's called like Halloween Night. You probably know what it is, Kami.
Oh yeah.
I read that.
That's R.L. Stine. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. But I love the movie.
Oh, the Goosebumps, you know, and I'm glad you mentioned that. You want to know what I've noticed? Because I thought the Goosebumps movie was really, really fun. I mean,
fun.
You know what I think? I think that the people who liked the Goosebumps movie are people that love Hocus Pocus. It reminded me so much of Hocus Pocus. Really?
I hate that. I hate that movie. Like, I don't get it at all. I don't get it. I'm the only person on
You might be. You might be.
I'm it. I hate it. I watched it with my daughter.
You know what? And I think
the first time, like 2 years ago, and both of us didn't like it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
I think that's one of those movies though, it's when you watched it, because I think if you watched it when it first came out and you were one of those that watched it on repeat, you love the movie. But if you're just getting acquainted with it now, or if you didn't really like it then, you're not going to be a huge Hocus Pocus fan. I know that when that sequel came out in the book a couple years ago, I was so disappointed with it. It was just utter crap, utter garbage. But I'm a huge, oh yeah, I hated the sequel. I don't even remember what it was. I actually gave it away in a giveaway. That's how much I hated it. It was just so unnecessary. It was kind of like a revisit, and I can't think of the characters' names right now because it's been a couple years since I read it, but it was the daughter of the boy and the girl that got married, that like they get married after all these years, they have a daughter, and it's kind of like her adventure with it. But it was just, no, they tried way too hard to be nostalgic with it. And kind of like what you were saying with Ready Player 2, Steve, you know, like the nostalgia was there. If you had been there for the original, you would have appreciated the nostalgia of it, but it was like they were trying too hard. So I mean, yeah, but I think that goes to say with a lot of nostalgic movies, like if you weren't part of the original craze, I think that you don't love it as much as some people do. I find that with a lot of horror movies, you know, people will look back and ask, well, why do you like, you know, A Nightmare on Elm Street? Well, because I grew up with it. That was, for me, the first slasher movie I was ever introduced to. So going back now, yeah, they're not the best movies, but it's because I have such a history with that franchise.
Yeah, that's why I get so much crap when I tell people I don't like The Princess Bride, because I saw The Princess Bride for the very first time when I was 18 years old. I have a feeling that if I watched it when I was a kid, I probably would have enjoyed it. And I mean, like, yeah, so when it comes to nostalgia, yeah, you're absolutely right, Cami. Sometimes you can do it well, sometimes you can't. But, you know, in Ready Player 2, there's a scene where they go to this virtual world called Shermer. So if you are a movie watcher, you know what Shermer means. So it's an entire couple of chapters dedicated to John Hughes movies. So I'm like, I'm there. That was awesome. I love that. Also, the other thing that I wanted to mention was Jack Black does a very good job when it comes to children's themed horror movies, because I liked him in Goosebumps, but I love him in The House with a Clock in Its Walls. Have you seen that?
I did, yeah.
I like that
it's
movie.
basically the same character.
But you know what? It doesn't matter. He sells it. I think he sells it.
It's like Jack Black isn't really he isn't really the character. He's always Jack Black. Like, that is who the character is. The character turns into Jack Black instead of him turning into the character.
And you know something? Maybe that's not necessarily a bad thing, because as long as it makes the movie enjoyable, you know?
I like him. I like him as an actor and everything. I just think he's
he's my birthday buddy, so I can't hate the guy. Yeah, he's one of my birthday buddies. David Fincher is one of my birthday buddies, and I just found out earlier in 2020 that legendary comic book writer Jack Kirby is one of my birthday buddies. So I am just like so happy about that.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's great. But I'm a little jealous of my wife. One of her birthday buddies is George Carlin.
I think mine is Beyonce. Cool.
What'd you say, Stacy?
I think mine is Beyonce, but now I got to Google it.
Yeah, although you'll get some good ones and you'll get some bad ones. I also found there's a specific birthday buddy that I do have that I'm not too thrilled with, and I don't want to mention it because it's just going to make me feel bad.
Oh, no, we don't share a birthday, but we're both September babies, so.
But, so I actually watched an old movie that's like very good to many people, and I never saw it at all, and it took me so long. So it's like approaching 40, and I finally watched What's Eating Gilbert Grape for the very first time.
I love that movie.
And I was very impressed by that movie. I mean, I totally understand why Leonardo DiCaprio was nominated for an Academy Award. He was brilliant in that movie.
Outstanding. That movie, like it, so that movie really gets me because of the situation I had with my mom growing up. And I was like the caretaker in so many ways. And watching that movie, or when that movie came out, it was just like, wow, that's kind of my life. It was that was the first movie that I felt like represented me. And I just loved it. It was so well done.
It's such there are so many amazing performances in that movie. Johnny Depp is
Unreal.
fantastic. It's also crazy to actually know that Crispin Glover and John C. Reilly are in that movie too.
There's a lot of people in it. Yeah,
Yeah, but
it's outstanding.
it was yeah. Juliette Lewis is also great in that movie as well. But it's such a sad movie because
Yeah.
it's just, you see this family that really just lives in the middle of nowhere, and they have such, not necessarily problems. I don't ever want to say that Arnie is a problem to this family. He's a good boy. He's got a good soul, but it's just because of where they live and the fact that they don't have the kind of resources that are needed to help this young man develop into a functioning member of society. That's what I think is important about that movie, because people need to understand that this could happen, something like this can happen to anybody in this world. And how it can be handled is what really makes the difference, you know?
Yeah, it's beautifully done.
It really is. And it's just what I love about that movie is the love that the brothers really have for each other, even though Arnie can do a lot of things that pisses Gilbert off a lot in the movie. He still has so much love for him because he knows that Arnie is a good boy. That's what it really boils down to.
Steve.
Yeah, it is. It is. But I never saw it, and I was supposed to watch Mean Streets, and the day I was actually going to watch it, Netflix took it off, so I can't see it now. So I'm upset about that, but I'll see it soon. But I figured, you know what? What's Eating Gilbert Grape is here. I always wanted to watch it, so I finally saw it. I thought it was a very good movie. I mean, I'm definitely not going to watch the movie again. I'm definitely not going to own it on DVD, but I'm just glad that I saw another modern classic film. You know, here's what I'm going to use, one of my old things from one of my older shows back here on YouTube. I'm going to give that movie 3 stars out of 4. I really, really enjoyed it. It just doesn't have the rewatchability that some other movies that I watch has, but I still did really like it.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in years.
Yeah, it's crazy to actually know that I've seen it for the first time. It made me actually want to, and I'm probably going to end up watching it at some point in time this year. I've been wanting to watch the Robert Downey Jr. film where he plays Charlie Chaplin, the movie Chaplin from '93. I hear so many.
That is an excellent film.
And especially considering the fact that I finally watched my very first Charlie Chaplin movie last year with Modern Times. It's like, I want to see Robert Downey Jr. play this person. And I believe he was also nominated for an Academy Award for that performance.
I don't know.
I believe he was.
So, yeah.
I believe he was.
Very well.
So we talked about Stacy looking at Universal movie monsters and stuff like that, but Kami, you are planning on watching slasher movies?
Yes, well, I just finished. I think I'm pretty much at a lull with Westerns. So I started because I was reading all the splatterpunk Westerns from Death Head Press. They're coming out with like a series of books, and they're on, I think the 7th is about to be released. It got me really interested in going and reading some Westerns. So I've been kind of just all about the Western movies. I mean, going back from Tombstone, Young Guns, the old stuff, to modern shows like Hell on Wheels, Yellowstone, Deadwood, all of that. But I pretty much exhausted, I think, what's out there. So what I did was I found this really cool book on the internet, and I think he is a movie critic. To what degree, I don't know. I think he just kind of has his own blog and stuff like that. But he puts together these very small books of what he considers like the 100 best slasher films of a certain era. So the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s. So I decided to just start with the slashers. So I've almost made my way completely through the 80s. I am starting to tackle the 90s, and then what my intent is to rate them on my own. I am finding that I don't love slashers as much as I thought I did, but I'm also kind of discovering some stuff that I may have not even, attempted because of the title or because of the cover of the movie or whatever. I did watch Sleepaway Camp for the first time ever. I am traumatized now. I'm not the same person I was before.
You're a changed
I've actually
woman.
made my way through. Yeah, I'm a changed human being. But what's interesting though is there's a lot of really dark elements in Sleepaway Camp that are never discussed out in the open. So by finishing these series or these, this I guess grouping of movies, I would like to kind of just group them into my own top 5 or top 10, or maybe just talk about them as I watch them, because I really think that there are some elements of that film that really should be brought to light. There's, there's some really dark, twisted things on a different level. And I think sometimes that gets overshadowed in horror, is that we're focusing on the death and the dismemberment and the blood and the gore. But there's a lot of underlying topics that happen in these movies that sometimes just doesn't get discussed, So
Yeah.
I would like to kind of just bring some of that to the forefront, because I do think that it gives some value to horror movies in terms of people just saying that, they're a waste of time or they're just gross. And if you really stop and look at some of the themes and the morals and values and the lessons that come out of some of these stories, you might stand to learn something. So yeah, I've made my way, like I said, almost quite nearly to the end of the 80s. And I've watched now 3 Sleepaway Camps. I'm looking adamantly for the 4th. So it's an interesting journey, but I'm going to be really excited to get to the 90s and really jump in, because that's what I remember growing up with. That's when I was really going to the theater 5 times a week. I was very intentional about new releases, so it's going to be fun to see that. And then just kind of my early adult years going into the 2000s, and it's just a fun journey to knock out some classic horror.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't even know when I'm going to actually watch a brand new movie. I mean, everyone is raving right now about Promising Young Woman, and I know that it's on Netflix right now, but, if that movie ends up winning Best Picture, God bless it, but the story and the whole concept of the movie is just not grabbing me, so I don't know if I'm going to actually watch it. Although, because of the fact that we're pretty much winding down here for the night, and this was absolutely awesome. I just really appreciated this time to chat with you both, and I'm looking forward to the next time. I think, because Kami is definitely going to be doing this, but next month I want to talk about a very special movie, and I think it would be great, since Kami apparently wants to watch it as well. I think we should all watch it and talk about it together. It's the 50th anniversary of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I think we should all watch that movie and talk about it together, because that is just, that is one of my all-time favorite movies. And I definitely want to. One of the few things I'm definitely going to want to do throughout this show is I definitely want to try and hunt down movies that are celebrating milestone anniversaries in 2021. And it's just crazy that some movies are celebrating their 40th birthdays along with myself. So it's definitely interesting, or not even their 40th. Even some of them are celebrating their 30th and their 20th and their 50th and even their 60th. So it's just crazy to believe that some movies have actually been out there for so many years. As a matter of fact, guess what movie is turning 80 this year?
What?
Fantasia.
No, Fantasia turned 80 last year.
Oh, it did? I thought it was this year.
Pinocchio and Fantasia came out in 1940. This year, it's Dumbo.
Oh, okay.
For real?
Oh, Dumbo. I have some really cute Funko Dumbos.
Yeah, Dumbo's turning 80 this year. It's crazy to believe that that is the 4th canon classic. That is just absolutely crazy. And next year, Bambi's gonna turn 80.
Wild.
Oh, that's still one of my favorite Funko Pops. I have Bambi on the ice, the piece of ice.
Oh, that is definitely one of the most adorable. Yeah. So yeah, I think that we should definitely rewatch Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory together, and I think that we would just have an awesome time just taking a trip down memory lane talking about that awesome movie. It really is one of the greatest.
And I highly recommend for all parents to read Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, because that is one of the most dark books for children, and there are so many great valuable lessons in it for adults.
Absolutely.
I love that. It's one of my all-time favorite children's books.
That I won't disagree with you there, but that's going to wrap it up for this launching episode of The Old, the New, and the Awesome. However order you want to put it in, I don't care, but that's what it is. But anyway,
We're all old and we're all awesome.
Yeah, there you go. We're all old and we're all awesome. That is exactly where we're going to leave it right there. I love that. But anyway, Stacy, Kami, thanks for this awesome conversation. This was a great first episode. And I hope that you all enjoy, and I hope that you will all join us for the next great conversation. I think it's going to be fun. So take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed the video you just watched, feel free to leave a comment. Also, feel free to subscribe if you want to be up to date with our latest videos. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you in the next one. Actions speak louder than words.